Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast, episode 302. And we are joined today by a very special guest, first time guest from Surrey in England, Ben Bradbury. How are you doing, Ben? You okay?
Yeah, I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So Ben is he's a Strongfirst Elite coach. He is a Carlson Gracie BJJ Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Black Belt, the owner of Complete Fitness, which is in Deep Cut in Surrey, and very recent lifter of the Dinnie Stones, and also husband, recent father as well. Lots going on. He's just mentioned something else in terms of a community stone lifting group that he's trying to set up as well. So we've got loads and loads we're going to talk about. I suppose, Ben, to begin with, I'm going to say this. I'm going to kick off with this because I've known you for quite a long time, and one thing I always feel, or the sense I get from you, and I saw on your bio, on your Facebook bio, in this order, is Christian, coach, student of strength. Yeah, and you're a very calm person. You're a very measured person. You're a very hugely polite, very professional, do things properly and do things well. And I think that whenever I've been anywhere with you, I've always seen, I mean, your technique in everything that you do is impeccable. Even when you do like we did a strongman show like last year, didn't we, in Ipswich? And you were like,
Yeah,
your technique is just like you're doing this strongman show. And basically for most people, or for a lot of people, technique, it doesn't matter what it looks like, they just get it done. But like every single rep of everything you do is like precision, which is and I think you said afterwards, you said I could probably be a bit quicker and less perfect, if you like, because it is
yeah,
brilliant. But yeah, do you want to kind of maybe just tell us I mean, because I have known you for a long while, but when we get people on the podcast who, even if we've known them for a long while, we never really sit down and really get to know them and ask some questions, some deeper questions, and find out more about them and their background. But in terms of yourself, um, how did you come to strength? How did you come to fitness, the gym, that kind of thing? What was your kind of way into it in terms of your own training and your own development, and then wanting to seek it as a career and a business?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't have a particularly, I never excelled in anything athletically when I was young, when I was a child. I tried a few different sports, but I never took to, football. We weren't a big football household, which in England is the primary for your international listeners. Football or soccer for the US audience is the primary kind of sport that most certainly when I was growing up, young boys would play. And we just weren't a big football household. So I never really took to that. I played a little bit of basketball when I was in secondary school. My older brother liked basketball as well. But I went to a regional youth games with that as well. So within Surrey, I was on a team that competed in there. Honestly, can't remember how we did. Um, and I wasn't particularly good at basketball. My main, I think my main strength in that was just I could mark somebody really closely. I wasn't very quick with dribbling skills. I wasn't very accurate with shooting, but I could mark someone very effectively and essentially take them out of the game. But that was about it. And then, we got to mid-teens. Everyone else carried on growing, and I seemed to stop at the same height. So I'm just under 5'10", and I think I
Do you
sort of
know?
realised maybe basketball's not the sport for me.
Do you know what? When you started talking about basketball, I was like, "Hang on, you're a similar height to me. You're about the same size as me." And I've got no chance.
But like you say,
um,
maybe at that stage you were all kind of
Yeah.
the same
yeah,
heights, and
when
then
I
everyone else
started,
just
we
kept
were
getting
all about the
shorter.
same height, and then it was like everyone else just had some sort of supplement that I didn't know about, and they all just carried on growing. Um, and then I did a little bit of martial arts. I did a little bit of taekwondo when I was in my mid-teens for about a year or so, and I enjoyed it, but there was always a bit of a pull towards martial arts. My sister, especially, used to watch quite a few Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee kind of films, and there was something cool about that was appealing. So I did taekwondo for a little bit. I got a bit frustrated with that because I started at the same time as a few friends my age, and with the particular club of taekwondo I was with, I found progressing up through the ranks, there was a kind of an oral and a written test as well as a practical one. So it had, can't remember what the Korean term is, but the equivalent of kata. So you had to do, solo drills to demonstrate you knew the movements. No problem with them. You'd do some light sparring sometimes, but you'd also do tests, and you had to learn, certain words in Korean, so you knew different parts of the hand or the body. And I can see the value in that, but I started to find I wasn't progressing as quick as some of my friends because they were really good at the theory side. And sort of 14, 15-year-old me started going, well, it's fighting. Like, if you can pass a test, great. But if someone tries to punch you in the face, what does that mean? So why should you have a higher belt than me? And I think I just got a bit frustrated with that. I can see the value in it now, because with a lot of martial arts, there's such a history to them that it's culturally important to know those things as well. So I was perhaps a bit rash with that, but I kind of dropped away from it. And in my late teens, what brought me to the gym and to training was my sister's boyfriend at the time. Really, he was in the army, and when he'd come back. He wasn't posted, so it was just when he'd come back at the weekends. He was on camp fairly locally. I'd go out for runs with him, and he just lent me some fitness magazines, sort of men's fitness and stuff like that. And I started going to the gym, started putting some of that into practice, and I kind of just fell in love with this idea of, oh, you can improve yourself, or you can get better at things. It just I don't know why. It was something that hadn't really occurred to me before. And then seeing that progress just felt like, okay, you're not stuck with what you are at the moment. You can affect this. And that just really lit the fuse for me.
And that's, I mean, so how old are you now, Ben? I don't know.
39. So I'm 40 at the end of the year.
Okay, cool, excellent. So this was probably, like you say, maybe in your late teens when you were. Is that what you said when you were doing your kind of your gym stuff? Yeah,
about 16, 17
yeah,
was when
yeah.
I started going. Yeah.
And then when was it? Did you have a kind of another career or another job, or did you go into kind of fitness and stuff from a working perspective in terms of what you did to earn a living and that sort of thing?
No, I was initially my other passion when I was in my late teens was filmmaking. I was really into films, and I studied media at A level. I kind of hedged my bets and did things like mathematics and economics as well. My parents were trying to still convince me to do a nice, sensible business degree, and I kind of said, no, I want to pursue this media and filmmaking and stuff. So I went to university studying practical media and specializing into filmmaking. And I got a few jobs in summer holidays, working on some in the production office for some films, things like that. Got offered a job actually that could have got me started, but I would have had to drop out my last year of university. So somebody I worked with in the summer called me up halfway through my final year and said, look, I'm in the wardrobe department now. I need someone reliable. You worked with me in the summer. Do you want a job? It's on the latest Harry Potter film, and we'll be working on that. And it was tempting because it's the kind of industry where actually it's nice to have a degree, but experience in the industry and a network is probably what's going to take you further. But I was already starting to get the idea, I don't know if this is the industry that's going to be right for me. The working hours are incredible. People will once a job is on, that film needs filming, and every minute is costing them money. So people work long hours and 7 days a week often until a film is wrapped, and then maybe they'll have some time off. And some of the jobs I worked in the summers in those production offices, I started to think, maybe this isn't for me. Combined with that, my very first year at uni, I had already kind of thought, you know what, maybe I want to carry on doing this fitness thing. And I remember going home, I think after my first term, and telling my parents, I'll probably finish my, the way only an 18-year-old can say, like they know everything. I think I'll finish my degree, but you know what? I think after that, I'll retrain and I'll be a PT. My mum almost had a heart attack. My dad, I think my dad just thought, I'll give it time and maybe he'll see sense. So those two combined, I thought, I don't know if this is the industry for me. I tried for a little bit once I left university. I thought maybe I can combine the two. So I got some work experience with Men's Fitness Magazine, did a little bit of work with them. I got an internship with a PR company that specialized in sports stuff. So that was just after the uh, 2008 Olympics. So we were representing Speedo, and we had things like Rebecca Adlington, and they had the laser racer suit. I don't know if you remember all that. There was a bit of controversy about it. So we were doing all the PR for that, and it was interesting again, but it didn't hold any passion for me. And the commute in and out of London just ate up so much time, and I just wanted to train. So yeah, less than a year out of university, I retrained as a PT, and that's been the job since.
Well, you made the right decision, because that Harry Potter thing never went anywhere, did it? So
No, exactly. What a waste of time.
And so when you started off, were you a kind of a PT in a local leisure centre, or like, I mean, what year would this have been? I'm trying to kind of work out. I'm trying to work back.
2009. So I qualified near the end of 2009, and I went straight into a Fitness First, my local Fitness First. I was there for about 3 years, and it was a good testing ground to kind of hone your craft a little bit. Anyone that's done a PT degree or a PT course in the UK knows it gives you the bare bones so that you can get some insurance, but it leaves a lot to be desired, and you've got a lot of further education to do from there. So I was trying to learn how to apply that craft, really, and it was a good place to do that. You could test out a lot of stuff, but it was nowhere to make a long-term career. I'm not saying you can't at any commercial gym, but certainly the one I was at, it was a very small one. It was kind of tucked away on a housing estate. Not many people were that interested in personal training, so I could get by, but I knew my career wasn't going to thrive there, and I'd need to do something else if it was going to sustain me long term.
Yeah. And then what did you do? So what was the next step from maybe what was the next step from there? And then what was your first kind of awareness or interface with sort of Strongfirst and that kind of or did you go, kind of, was there a timeline, and did you go to anything else prior to Strongfirst, any other kind of methodologies that you really kind of got into, or kind of how did that work?
Well, when I was still at university, one of the things that I started following a lot, there's a guy called Ross Enemate. Ross trains on the social medias, and he's still going strong. He's very much into strength and conditioning for boxers, and he had a manual called Infinite Intensity, and I bought that when I was about 18, and I followed that for 3 or 4 years, and very high intensity stuff. Fairly well rounded, but the kind of training that I kind of wonder now, I'm like, hey, you can bounce back from that stuff when you're in your early 20s, but I'm not sure it would suit me now. But it gave me a good gas tank, and I was pretty into that sort of high intensity training at that point. And then
is he, just quickly, is he Katie Taylor's trainer now? I
yes.
think, isn't he? Yeah, Katie.
Yeah, I don't know if he still is, but for a long time he was her strength and conditioning coach. And real minimal kit. I think one of his kind of phrases was low tech, high effect. So I had a little garage gym set up where I was living at uni, with one single light bulb up in the rafters, and it leaked when it rained and everything. But I could do burpees until my heart was content in there. And then after I did my PT course, actually on my PT course, right at the end of it, they offered a 1-day kettlebell workshop. And I remember going in, and they taught you the basics. And one of the coaches at the time was flipping through this book by this crazy Russian guy called Pavel. And he was watching he was looking at some of it going, oh, I don't know about this. He's getting you to do squats facing the wall. And this all seems, yeah, I don't think it's up to much. And so I just kind of took the basics from them and was playing around with that kind of stuff for a while. While I was at Fitness First, I did a couple of courses with the UK Strength and Conditioning Association, UK SCA, and I liked some of that stuff. I'm not sure I applied much of it. They did an Olympic weightlifting weekend, and I had a little taste of that, but I felt I needed a bit more depth on that. So I actually did a course with a guy called Giles Greenwood, who he represented Britain at the Commonwealth Games, Manchester, might have been 2003, I think. He won a gold in the heavyweight category. So accomplished guy. And he was at that point offering the course out of Bethnal Green, I think, Bethnal Green Weightlifting Club, which is one of the oldest still running gyms in the UK. They've been there was some threats that it might get closed down recently. There's a great little mini documentary about it on YouTube that's worth watching.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, it's a proper old. It's a bit like Repton Boxing Club, isn't it? It's one of these like things that's been around for 100 years plus or whatever it is. And yeah, incredible. Yeah,
great space. And that was a guy who really cared about teaching people how to do Olympic weightlifting properly. There wasn't that many of us on the course. It was over several weekends. And he probably could have done it in a more cost-effective way, but you could tell he wasn't in it for the money. He wanted to really help people learn this, and he was passionate about it. And you could send him videos and stuff in between the weekends, and he would come back to you with sort of breakdowns of how he thought you could improve it and stuff. So that was great. I played with that a little bit. And after 3 years at Fitness First, I just felt I wanted a little break. I've got a love of Canada. I went as a kid to the Rockies, and so I indulged another passion, went off, did a bit of traveling, did a ski season out there. And when I came back, it was a good break in the career to go, well, I definitely want to get back to this. It gave me a bit of thinking space, and I knew I needed my own space. I knew that a commercial gym wasn't where I was going to make a career. And I wanted to learn some new stuff. So I got myself a little space. It was basically about the size of a double garage, a weird little building that was right next to a rectory, tucked away. I don't know what they built it for, but it's had its own little bathroom, its own little kitchen, and the training space was about the size of a double garage. So I could kit that out, and I could do one-to-one coaching there. And I went to a friend, and I was just chatting to them about some other stuff, and I said I really want to push myself a bit more. I want to learn a little bit more. And they said, well, I've got 2 recommendations. There's this company called Strongfirst, which I think you'd enjoy. And FMS, I think, would be really good for you. But I'd probably start with Strongfirst. And that was what set me on the course, really. So that was 2013. And I looked it up, and, I was lucky to have Claire living just down the road from me then. That was when she was living in Bracknell, Claire Booth, who's the head of Strongfirst UK, Strongfirst GB. And so I could pick her brains a little bit on stuff. And signed up for the SFG1, which is where I met yourself. And that's what got me on.
Were we on the same? Were we on the same 2014 in Hull?
We're in the same team. We're in Fabio's team.
All these courses over the years, they kind of, they kind of merge into one, or they blur, so you're never really sure. So that was that was when was it Fabio and Dan John and everyone, was it? Because I put a picture up actually the other day.
It was from that one.
And Mark Toomey and obviously James Brees and stuff was there, and God. Yeah, I can't remember. I couldn't remember which one it was, but that's good. Yeah, because Pete, I think you did it like earlier.
I did it in November that year.
Yeah,
there was that they were doing 2 a year at the time. Weren't
there was that later. Was that the one after we did? Then?
It was in November 2014 when I did.
Yeah, and we did May 2014 then, didn't we? Yeah, brilliant. Oh yeah, but then you did
Fabio and Dave. It was Fabio, Dave Whitley, and that was it. I think. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so that's 2014. Yeah, brilliant. And And then but this double garage sized building out on the edge of or next to a rectory, that's not where you are now, is it? That's not no.
So I was there for about 7 years, and I was doing 1-to-1 most of the time there, and it was lovely because I really applied everything I learned in Strongfirst there. So it meant that I could have my own space. I'd never have to worry about if equipment was being used. I could kit it out how I wanted, so it was fairly minimal. Lots of kettlebells, some barbells, pull-up bar, not that much else. Some mats as well, so we could get people on the floor. And I just took people mostly through the Strongfirst basics. We did a lot of kettlebell work, and then as I did the barbell course, the SFL, the next year started implementing some of that, and it just gave me this opportunity to try implementing that and seeing what worked with most people, and really kind of honing the craft on that. But again, after I stayed there longer than I should have, I got a little too comfortable, and I got to that dangerous point where I was kind of making enough for it to be comfortable, and I had enough flexibility that I could go off and do other stuff I wanted. And at that point, that was right in the midst of me training jiu-jitsu multiple times a week. So it worked in that I could train my early morning clients, do jiu-jitsu at lunchtime, train the evening clients. I didn't really have a social life because I was working a split shift like that. But it meant I could just be a bit selfish with my time. But again, after a while, I sort of realized, it's lonely. Like a lot of PTs are in that situation. It's a pretty lonely existence. You see your clients all day, but as much as they become friends and you chat to them, it is still a coach and student relationship, and you don't have colleagues. And it's all kind of work talk all the time. And I had this idea that wouldn't it be nice if I could set up almost like a cooperative for good coaches, and we could have a space where we get regular work hours. So rather than having to do a split shift, we can have set hours that are a reasonable length of time. We can have holidays and still have regular pay. We can, if we need a sick day or whatever, we can still get regular pay. But our members can have structured times that they can come in and train. So everybody wins. The people can train throughout the day, but the coaches don't have to work throughout the day, and we can pool all our resources. So that was the genesis of Complete Fitness. And so I decided, well, okay, I need a bigger place that I can run small group training instead, and that's the way for me to go. And I found a good place at the wrong time, which was right at the beginning of COVID. So about a month into COVID, the landlord was going, look, do you want this place? If you don't want it, someone else will take it. And the rent was about 5 times what it was where I was moving out of. And then there was a whole bunch of other expenses. I'd have to kit the place out. So I was absolutely bricking it. And it was a scary, scary decision to take. But I took that on. Luckily, through the summer, builders could still work. So we could have the builders in. I had a good friend of mine that I'd trained for years that was doing the work for me. So we had to strip out the building because it had been an industrial building. So it had pneumatic pipe work and grease and dust and dead rats and everything everywhere. So we had to strip that all out, kit it all out. And we were able to open in the October. We opened for 1 month. And then in the UK, we went into another lockdown for a month. So I had to close doors. And then we opened for about 2 weeks. And then we went into another lockdown that for gyms affected us for about 4.5 months. So the members that I had at that point, some had followed me over, but it was a bit of a trek from my old place. So I lost quite a few people there. I'd brought in a few people, but it was very bare bones. So I just opened up the doors and said, look, come in. Take kettlebells, take dumbbells, take whatever you need home. I'll still run the same class structure, but we'll just do it all online. So we did about 4.5 months just video on Zoom, and you get creative with programming. But luckily, Strongfirst stuff that is all just based around 1 or 2 kettlebells and a small amount of space just came into its own then, because it meant I could still train people really effectively. And then, and then we were able to reopen, and I had a tough couple of years from there because I was doing it all by myself for about 2 years from that point to grow the business. I probably did it solo for longer than I needed to.
I was going to say, so the idea was to have multiple coaches and you all help each other. But when you opened, it was just you. Yeah.
And something that you touched on in that opening introduction, I like things done to a real high standard, as much as I'm able to. And I'm not saying that my technique or my way of coaching is the pinnacle, because you're always learning and you don't know what you don't know. But as best as I can, I want jobs done well. And I think I was really worried about handing it over to another coach for a long time. It was my baby. And all these people that I trained, there were people that had been there 2.5 years just in that business, but there were some people that had been with me for 10 years plus, and I'd coached every single session they'd ever done. And to then hand them over to somebody else felt terrifying. So I probably held off on employing another coach for much longer than I should have. And I worked myself into a pretty dark place, psychologically, emotionally. I got to a bit of a breaking point, a bit of a burnout point. And my wife at the time, fiance wife, we were about to get married at that point, was pretty worried about me. Got to a point that it was scary. So bringing someone else in was needed at that point. I pushed it as far as I could, and we've grown from there. We've got a great team there now, which means it's kind of fulfilling that vision that I had, where we have decent hours each, and we can have days off without any worry. We can have sick days if we need them, and we can offer classes throughout the day. And people know whatever time of day they're coming along, they're going to get the same service, regardless of which coach is in front of them. They'll get a different flavor of coach, but the quality is the same across the board. And we share notes as a coaching team. So after every shift, we debrief, we share notes. Every coach, before they go in a shift, spends some time revising those notes so that they know exactly what each person in front of them, what stage they're going to be at, any considerations they have, so they can step straight back in with that person. They might not have trained them for a couple of weeks, but they can go, "Oh, hey, John, how's the ankle feeling? I heard that you did this last time and we changed this lift. Let's see how that is today, and we can pick back up." So they get the PT level of service, but they get the camaraderie of training in a big group. And it's going well. I'm happy with what we built.
This is really interesting. I want to pull on this a little bit because hang on. Wait a second. That was perfect, Simon, wasn't it?
I couldn't hear anything.
That was my dog. That was my dog barking.
I couldn't hear anything. Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's good because it's really loud. I want to pull on this a little bit because you said something really interesting there, and this will affect a lot of coaches, definitely, but a lot of people in general. You've got very high standards, which is great, and that's how it should be. But was it, like, two questions? Was it necessary to go through that, or do you wish you'd have just said sooner, like, I'll happily give it over? Because now what you've said is people get because people could be used to your training and trained only by you, and that is great. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best thing for them, because if they get trained by someone else as well, in a similar way, but a slightly different flavor, that might fit them better, or it might make them think a different way. It might make you think a different way. So was it like in hindsight, and what would you say to someone who was going through that right now, who've got the same thing of like, I've got exacting standards, is like, you can find someone who will complement your style. You can't just pick anyone, obviously, but do you wish you'd have handed some of it over sooner?
Yeah, in hindsight, I wish I'd got other people in sooner. And for other coaches, because it's something that I've seen a lot in colleagues. There's one element that I think the PT industry has a really high dropout in the first year or two. A lot of people struggle to make it. And there's multiple factors for that. I think the job is often sold by educators that provide PT courses as this complete solution to the corporate workspace. You're sick of being at your desk, become a PT, you work just the hours you want to, it's great. It looks ideal. And I think people don't necessarily realize how tough it's going to be on the business side. And even if they can make a successful kind of client base, it's then a little bit of a prison, because if you're going solo, that's great, but you kind of have to work the hours that people want to be trained. And a lot of that is they'll want to be trained before 9 to 5 hours and after 9 to 5 hours. So you end up working this split shift, which I did for ages, which kills your social life, can kill your relationships with your partners. And then there's the element of, well, you can have a day off whenever you want. Yes, you're your own boss, but you're not going to earn any money. You can go on holiday whenever you want, but not only are you paying for the holiday, you're losing the income. And that's really tough. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that they've failed as a PT because they have to drop out the industry, and they haven't at all. It's just a brutal industry to make a living. So is a lot of self-employment. I think this isn't unique to being a PT. You could say this for anybody that's self-employed. And anybody that's in that situation, I'd really recommend reading The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Great book. And it talks about this idea of being a great technician. And you have this he calls it an entrepreneurial seizure, where you suddenly go, well, I'm a great technician. I'm sick of doing that for someone else, and they're profiting off me being in their business. I'm going to set up my own business. And then you don't realize all the other stuff you're going to have to do. I'm going off course though.
No, that's really, yeah, because I read that book, I think about when I started, in 2007, I think it was, when I opened my gym, so it's a classic book, and it really, it's very, very simple, but it speaks total truth to any kind of entrepreneur or someone starting their own business. Yeah. Definitely.
And then it gives you this idea of setting up systems, and that, if you've got a great system to your business, and it can be really daunting to systematize what you do, because you go, well, especially PTs, we're a vain little bunch, and we like to think, well, nobody can coach the way I do because there's this ethereal nature to what I do. I'm so charismatic, I talk to people and only I have the insight. And you think what you do can't be distilled into a document and a system. But really it can. It's just hard to do that, to sit down and systematize stuff. It's difficult, but if you sit down and think about what you do, there is a logic and a system to what you do, even if you're not aware of it. And in the E-Myth, they talk about, if you can systematize stuff and you can make that, then you can bring other people in, and they don't have to be at the level of technician you are, as skilled, because all they need to do is work the system. They don't need to do anything else. And that was part of what gave me the confidence to bring other people in, because I thought, well, look, I can't do it all, but if I can systematize some of it, it's going to be easier, and they've got a structure to come in on. And then when I did bring some people in, I think I had to be at that breakdown point to be able to hand it over. I shouldn't have had to be. I got in my own way more than I should have, but maybe just being stubborn, that was what it took for me to get there. But if I can save other people that pain, then I'd really like to, because it's not a place I want to revisit ever again. And then Peter's absolutely right. Bringing other people in has only strengthened not just the business, but me as a coach as well. Because if you bring in some really good people, they might not teach exactly the same way you do, but they're going to bring other perspectives. And that's what my current coaching team has. We've got people that have different training backgrounds, different strengths, just different ways of communicating. And they're going to explain something to the members in a way just slightly different than I will. They'll speak a different language. And there's going to be some people that, I think I've been delivering these shit hot coaching cues for years, and it's not quite been clicking with somebody. And then my colleague will come in and just explain it in a slightly different way. And that person will go, oh, I get what you mean now. I should move this way. And I'm, my ego takes a hit. But
And he really goes, I've been telling you that for years. You know?
that's what I've been saying. And the way I said it was beautiful and poetic and had these, great analogies. But everyone wins. And that's what we've seen. The other coaches I've brought in, they now do more of the programming. In fact, one of my coaches basically does all of our programming now. I don't write the programs as much as I used to. He'll still get me in to collaborate on some things, but he's taken charge of that now, and that's great to see. And the business is stronger because of it.
It's funny because there's a couple of things you've said there. One of them was like, you wish you'd have done it sooner. You didn't. You got to that dark place, and you would like to help other people not get to that place. But I toggle between that, helping people not get to that place, and do you actually need to get to that place to do the thing? You know what I mean? Do you learn so much from it? Because if you did it with that, if you don't get to that place and you do the thing early, you don't necessarily learn as much as if you do go to that place. And you don't want people to have to go there. However, it's really rewarding on the other side. It's just horrible when you're going through it. And it's like, I don't know which is the right thing to do. And maybe it's different for different people.
I can't remember the phrase, but there's something about that. There's some wisdom that can only be learned. You can't be told it. Well, you can, but it won't go in. And it's only by walking that road that you actually fully understand it. Otherwise, it's that difference between knowledge and wisdom, isn't it? You can know something in theory, but then that earned wisdom it's a whole different thing, and it affects you in a different way.
There's the other thing as well of what you were saying about systematizing stuff. Because I think there's also a thing of a lot of, I mean, again, not just PTs, people with their own business, everything. If you bring people in to work for you, you might think, well, they'll just learn everything I've done and then go off and open up their own thing and take my clients with them and all of that. There's like a fear of that, isn't there? And it's like, but not everybody. You've done it and you've gone through, and James has done it as well, and systematized stuff and all of that. And then you get people in and you teach them how to use your system, and then they might add little bits and all of that. But they might not be the people who are going to go and build their own. They're like, no, I'm quite happy doing this because it's not easy, but it's like, I can just plug myself in and move on. And I think when people fear that, it's less common that people are willing to do that because it takes a lot than people actually think. Because people might come along, you might get the odd person who comes along, learns all your stuff, buggers off, and then tries to teach other people it, but they don't fully understand it, so it's never going to work. Whereas it inside and out, and you can bring the guys in to help, and then, like you say, it now just works as a nice big community by the sounds of it, which is great.
Yeah, and that stuff's going to happen sometimes, but you can't control the competition. All you can do is do your job as brilliantly as you can. You can make yourself better. You're not gonna hold back everybody else, and trying to hold back somebody, or holding back because you're fearful that they'll take that knowledge and use it and be your competition. If they're better than you, then you kind of need to up your game, don't you? If people are going to leave you because of that, then there's something you need to improve. And it's funny you should say that. One of my coaches that's with me now, the one that's been with me for the longest time, he's been with me for about 3 years now. When he interviewed with me, he said, I want to be here for a couple of years. I want to start my own place. So I've come here. I want to learn how you do everything you do. And then I want to go and start my own place. And he was really upfront with me about it in the interview. And he's been with me for about 3 years now, and he's fantastic. And more, I'm bringing him into not just the coaching side, but the behind the scenes part of the business and all the systems and how all that works. I want to teach him as much as possible. My hope is that actually, as and when he does move on to something, we can do that together, and he'll become a business partner. And we've discussed that now, and I think that's probably going to be the case. But even if it wasn't going to be, I'd want to help him as much as possible to make his place as successful, because there are more than enough people out there that need training or that want to be trained. You don't need to try and see everybody as an enemy. There's enough people out there for every coach to make a decent living. And you're just, if you start to see everybody as an enemy, you just spiral, I think.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about. We've got about another 15 minutes left, and we've not touched.
Yeah,
I've got my checklist here. Strongfirst Elite. So you meant, you did all of the certifications. You passed them all. You were a
yeah,
strong first. You're one of the kind of, a fairly elite group, or a fairly well, I can't forget the word now, but a fairly small group within the UK who holds that Strongfirst Elite kind of badge. You're Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So how long have you actually been training in? You mentioned that you were training when you first were in the double garage space, and you were kind of going at
yeah.
lunchtime stuff. How long have you been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Are you still actively? Because I know you compete as well and things. Is that still something that's part of your life? And how long have you been a kind of BJJ practitioner?
Yeah.
Athlete.
I started. It wasn't formal grappling, but about the end of 2008. There was a guy that was training at my gym. He was an MMA fighter, and he started putting on some grappling classes. So that was mostly no gi, so just shorts and a t-shirt. And he showed me a few things, and did that for a few months. And then he was moving on, and he said, "Oh, there's some of the guys are setting up a place at the local judo club. They're going to put on and they're from Carlson Gracie." So kind of early 2009, I went and joined them, Carlson Gracie, and I was training jiu-jitsu consistently for about 11 years. It took me about 11 years to get my black belt. So throughout basically all of my 20s really, and into my early 30s. And unfortunately, combination of COVID and setting up the current gym has really interfered with that. I got my black belt December 2019, so just before COVID started. Month or two later, one of my training partners broke one of my fingers while we were sparring. So I had to take a sort of 6 weeks off or so because one of my fingers was broken. Great way to get into Zercher squats, by the way. When you break your finger, you can still Zercher squat really well. So
there you go. That's a great attitude. There's always a way.
And axle bar pressing because you don't need to have your hands closed. So,
Yeah.
So I could still squat and press. And then COVID hit, and I didn't want to risk the health of some of the people around me. So there was I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but there were a few people that were maybe flaunting COVID rules a little bit to meet up and train jiu-jitsu. And it wasn't worth the risk for me because it's the ideal way to spread COVID, being about this close to somebody and breathing heavily. So for a while, I didn't train because of that. And then I started the gym during COVID. So the current business, and I was full tilt, and I was working kind of 14, 15-hour days every weekday for about 2.5 years. And I was working most Saturdays as well. And on Sunday, I was trying to have some sort of life with my partner. So I couldn't really get back to it then. So probably since I got my black belt, I've probably done about a dozen training sessions in jiu-jitsu. And it's something I desperately want to get back to. But the business gives me a bit more time now. But as you touched on, about 3 months ago, I became a father for the first time. So that's where my priority is now. So definitely want to get back to jiu-jitsu, but unfortunately it's on the back burner a little bit at the moment.
Yeah.
So does that make you think that everything you've gone through is easy now? Because you're now doing the hard bit.
And then
not that I'd know.
And then stone lifting, and I know we've had Sven Rieger on the podcast, and great guy, and he's a good friend of yours, I know. And you've recently trained, I think I say recently trained. I think it was probably about 2.5 years or so you were training with the Dinnies in mind, to do them. And I think it's only as we're recording this, was it a couple of weeks ago you did it?
It was a week ago today.
Oh, only that quick? Oh, yeah.
My hands haven't even fully healed yet.
So a week ago today, you lifted the Dinnies up in Potarch in Scotland, and yeah, so like you say, you went through this period of normal gym training, kind of diving into Olympic lifting, getting involved with Strong First, the Strong First principles and methodology, obviously the BJJ that was kind of running alongside that as well. Where did stone lifting kind of come on your radar, and when did you become interested in that?
I'd always been I'd always watched World's Strongest Man since I was a kid. It was always on at Christmas. It was a big draw. So obviously you see the Atlas stones in that, and you see some other stone lifting, but it was mostly the Atlas stones. And I always just thought, well, that's for the big boys, that's great, but that's not something that's accessible. Which is weird because back when I was doing the stuff at university, that Ross Enemates training, he was a proponent of sandbag training. So even at that point, I made myself a sandbag at home. I just had a duffel bag, an army kit bag that was heavy canvas, and I stuffed it with little mini sandbags that I made myself. And I used to do carries with that. I'd lift it up and I'd do carries for time as part of a conditioning thing. But it kind of dropped out of my head then once I got into all the Strongfirst stuff. And it wasn't until I think probably about 2022, 23, I bought one of the Cerberus sandbags, and just started doing some lifts with that, and thought, well, it's not an Atlas stone, but I can have a 50-kilo sandbag, which is what I think I started with, and I can just lift that up and I can pop it over a bar, and that just got me going. And then kind of mid 23, Sven contacted me, and I'd already been friends with him for a good number of years there. And he just said, look, I'm going to go on this stone lifting tour at the end of 2024. Do you want to join me? I've seen you've been doing some sandbag lifting. How about some stone lifting? And that got me into the idea of, yeah, maybe I can lift some stones then. And the Inverstone stuck out to me as one that was going to be a high bar, but maybe I could get there. I didn't believe for a second that I could do the Dinnies. The heaviest deadlift I'd ever done was just under 160 kilos. So the idea of lifting the Dinnies, which are more than double that, I just thought, no way, pipe dream, not at all, ever. Doesn't matter how long I train, I can't do that. Sven had a little wry smile and said, well, maybe just train for it anyway. And he kind of won me round, and I thought, well, at the very least, if I train for it, I'm not going to get there, but I'll get stronger, and if I can get to 50% or 75% of the Dinnie weight, that would be pretty cool. And yeah, we did our stone lifting tour at the end of 2024, and I managed to do the Inver and a few others, watched Sven do the Dinnies, and it would take me another year and a half from that point. So it's, just over 2.5 years in total. And slowly over that time, belief kind of grew that maybe I could do the Dinnies. But it was a very slow road, and it certainly didn't start with the belief that it was achievable.
That's incredible. I really love. Sorry, Pete, you going?
I was just going to say, right, not to take anything away from Sven, but Sven said to you, like, oh, you can do it if I can do it. Sven's massive. He's a beast of a man, isn't he? He's huge. I mean, he's called Sven.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah. But so how much do you weigh, if you don't mind me asking?
Around sort of somewhere between 82 and 84 kilos, depending on how big lunch was.
Yeah. So you're not like huge. I'm going to say this because I'm about the same height. You're not hugely tall,
right.
But you're obviously packing a bit, because I'm like 70. I'm about 10 kilos lighter than you by the sounds of it. But so it's a considerable amount of your body weight that you're lifting up, isn't it? It's like, what would that be? 4 times?
80, 160, near to 4 times body weight. Yeah.
Because
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, on rings as well, because those rings are a git as well, aren't they, apparently?
Yeah, they're horrible. I think James was about to mention the same person. One of the things that really helped push along that belief was watching Chloe Brennan do the initially the Rogue record breakers when she did the replica ones, which I can't remember. The replica ones might be a fraction heavier, like a hair heavier. Watching her do that was just amazingly inspirational, and just kind of gave me this belief of, doesn't have to be the big guys, other people can do this is amazing. and she's an inspirational character all the way around. And then as it happened, I didn't know she was planning to do it, but the month before, so beginning of April, she went up to Potarch as well, and she lifted the Dinnies, and that was I think that was a big tick of box for her as well. She wanted to do the actual ones, and ladies are allowed to lift the Dinnies with lifting straps. She did it without lifting straps as well, and she did the replica ones without lifting straps as well. And I actually put a little comment on her Instagram post from last month and said, I didn't want to sound sycophantic, but you've been a real inspiration to me. And actually, next month I'm going to go and try and do mine as well. And she replied to that, which is buzz. It's great to be able to point back to these people that have inspired you all along the way, because it's you never do anything by yourself. I'm a big believer in, there aren't these lone wolves in business, in training. There's people that like to say they're self-made and they did it all themselves. No one ever did. And it doesn't matter. It can be small things. It can be people you've never met. There's always someone that's inspired you, that's helped push you on, that's helped you in some way. And no one is ever solo project. So I like to always let people know if they've helped me, or even if it's just a nice comment.
Yeah, because we had, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say we had Chloe on, obviously, and she's again, like a lifetime natural athlete as well. She's not that small height. I think she's probably about, I don't know, like maybe 5'8" or something like that, I want to say. But she's got, around maybe the 75 kilo mark at the moment, probably, so yeah, amazing. And then obviously a few weeks back, again, we spoke to Stevie Shanks again. We had him on, didn't we, talking all about his recent heart attack and then triple heart bypass, and the fact that he's coming back. And he obviously, when he lifted the Dinnies, he's like, I think he said, is he about six? We spoke about this last time, I think he's about 68 kilos or something like that. Stevie's not a big guy. So yeah, it's incredible. But hearing you say there, actually, that at the time when you first had that little genesis, that little thought, that little first kind of grain of thought that your max deadlift was around the 160 mark, that's really interesting that you could then, because like you say, I think combined, what are they combined, about 340 or something like that? I'm trying to think off the top.
332.
332, yeah. So
yeah,
I mean, but that, yeah, absolutely incredible. Yeah, that's great. And like you say, and that's, I think, really, really, it's not just about lifting the Dinnie Stones, it's about anything, isn't it? You've got that initially, don't really believe, but I think that's a great attitude. Don't really believe you can do it, but I'll start training towards it. And then as you start training towards it, the belief starts to grow. Really, really, really incredible. Yeah.
It's something. It always sounds like a bit cheesy, but something that gets said in jiu-jitsu a lot is a black belt is just a white belt that didn't quit. And
yeah,
a lot of people overcomplicate it from that. But
you're saying it sounds cheesy, right? And I think that's what people kind of do. They just they not dismiss it or whatever. I don't know what the right word is, but people go like, the cheesiness of like, if you just believe in whatever, you're going to achieve. It's the think and grow rich thing. Dave Whitley talks about it as whatever I think or believe I can achieve or whatever. And it's like people go, yeah, but that's just all crap, isn't it? It's like, well, if you say that, then you're never going to achieve it, are you? But if you do actually think and believe it, then look what you can do. So you've proven that. And people have proven it over and over and over and over again. You find the right people to train you. You find the right people to coach you in business or whatever. And at least you get somewhere towards it, even if you don't get it, and you improve whatever it is you're trying to do. But if someone sees it within you as well and gets you to believe it or helps you to believe it in yourself, then yeah, I mean, why not? That's massively inspirational to pretty much anybody, because it's, it's like people might go, yeah, but you've been training your whole, like most of your life and all of that sort of stuff. And you're like, yeah, but it just, your path just kind of weaved its way towards that, didn't it? And then went, there you go. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, the other thing I like to say is, I'm not a big self-believer. I don't have much actual belief in myself. I am not very kind to myself often, and I'm not a big fan of delusional self-belief. But I am a big fan of just keep showing up, and if there's something you want to do, keep trying. Like, just keep showing up and be consistent. You'll be amazed where that can take you. even if you don't always believe in yourself, that doesn't have to stop you. You do need an element of self-belief. And I think I needed to develop that. I don't think I could have lifted the Dinnies last week without that belief. But that didn't come until the very late stages of this journey. Certainly for the vast majority of it, I didn't have that certainty that I would lift them.
Did you do it on your first, did you do it on your first attempt as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you see, like, obviously we see all the videos that keep popping up everywhere, don't they, and everything. Not of, like, of you, but of everyone who does them. And it's because I think Chloe did the splits on her first one. When on the first one she tried, she was on the shale, the pebbles, wasn't she? And her feet just went like that. But you see a lot of people will try and then they get the feel for them and they might pick one, like the front one up and not the back one or whatever. But you just nailed it first time. It was brilliant.
I was just going to say, Ben, when you went up there, when you approached it, and when you got your hands on the rings there for the first time, this is really interesting in it, because how confident were you that you would kind of get in position, you would brace, and that you would lift it?
So training had been going pretty good on the rings at the end of last year. So I wasn't doing a set time in between testing my 1 rep max. It was kind of just by feel. But the sort of latter half of last year, we're in May now, so kind of September, October, November last year, I was steadily setting new 1 rep maxes. So the total weight on the pins went to 290 and then 300 a few weeks later. And then, 6 to 8 weeks later, it was at 310 and then 320. And about mid-December, I got a little bit, I thought, what would be great before I take a bit of time off over Christmas? If I can hit that full Dinnie weight, I feel kind of ready. And I loaded up the full Dinnie weight and I broke it off the floor, but I couldn't lock out. And I still now don't know whether psychologically or physiologically that affected me in some way. And then training through January and the first half of February was awful. I was struggling with weights that had felt easy before. So then 240, 250 on the rings was just, I had to be having a great day and be loaded up on caffeine to maybe get a single rep with them. And I'd been doing triples and sets of 4 on them before. And I went back to Sven and sort of said, I'm really struggling with this. And he told me to just deload, take it right back. He referenced Dan John and Pavel's book Easy Strength and said, I want you to go for triples with a weight that you could do 10 reps with. So I took it right back down to about 180, 200 sort of kilos and built back up from there. And 2 weeks before the Dinnies, I did my last heavy session, and I did a set of 3 reps at 300 kilos. And I was pretty happy with that. And I felt like, to get a triple with 300 is great. But there was a little part of my head that said, yeah, but you've not pulled the full weight. You don't know. And I tried to balance that by thinking, well, yes, but anybody that goes to the Olympics, they're not going to do their best lift 2 weeks before in the gym. They're going to do their best one on the platform on that day. Because if they've done it 2 weeks before, they've peaked too early. So I was a wreck the day of the Dinnies. They don't lift until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that morning I was pacing around. I went through about 3 t-shirts because I was just sweating. I was vibrating most of the day, just through nerves. And I thought, I'm going to burn through too much energy before I even get to those stones. I don't know if this is going to work. I took myself out for a couple of walks and calmed myself down and, used some stuff to just help me calm myself. And then I did you can't really do much of a warm up there.
I was just going to ask, how do you just go straight for the full weight? I suppose that's the only option.
Yeah, I mean, in the weeks leading up, I'd pared down my warm up in my training sessions. So I took a 16 kilo kettlebell with me because there's some mobility drills that I really like to do. So I did those. I just put a beach towel down in the car park in Potarch, and next to the car did a few arm bars and Cossack squats and the stuff I like to do. And then the warm up was grab the light stone with both hands and do a 2-handed deadlift, have a little rest, grab the big stone, do another 2-handed deadlift, then grab the small stone with one hand and do a one-arm deadlift on each side, and then go for it. And I was really happy that the two-handed deadlift I did with the light stone, it felt really good. It felt better than the same weight on my pins at home. So as soon as I did that first deadlift with the light stone, I thought, yeah, this feels good. I think I might have this. And then I had a visualization that I'd used. I had this whole visualization that sort of felt like it gave me great strength. And I'd been using it in my garage, and I'd practiced it that morning. And you'll see in the video, I go and I stand by the stones and I close my eyes, and I'm just about to go through my visualization. And Brett Nicol goes, "Stop thinking about it. Just go and lift the stones." And he just, so I, being a rule follower and it being Brett Nicol, I just went, "Oh God." And just, that was the visualization out the window. Brett Nicol's told you to lift it. You lift it. So it worked.
Yeah, wow, that is a great, and also you look so cool when you did it because you had jeans on and that kind of Doom deadlift t-shirt as well. It's such a cool look, to lift the Dinnies. Incredible, yeah. No, obviously, no belt, nothing. Obviously, just pair of jeans and your t-shirt, and
I mean, that's Jiu-jitsu, we often talk about lineage, and we can trace back the lineage of your teacher and your teacher's teacher and all of this. And it was something that Sven talked about, his lineage with the lifting stones, with the Dinnies. And Jason Marshall came over in 2019. He taught the SFL, and then he went off and lifted the Dinnie Stones. And I drove him and his friend Linda. I drove them to the airport when he was on his way off, and he did it in jeans and a t-shirt. And so Sven was then guided by Jason Marshall. Jason Marshall gave him a lot of tuition. So Sven did it in jeans and a t-shirt. And then Sven gave me a lot of guidance and taught me. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'll do it in jeans and a t-shirt as well. I think jeans are a working man's kind of material. Yeah. It feels about right. And I had the pair of jeans that I'd used on the stone lifting tour the year and a half before. So I'd lifted the Inver Stone and the Berevan Stone and a few others in them. They were just about held out. You can see in the video there's ricks in them and stuff like that. But being a kid of the 90s, it felt a bit Nirvana to have ripped jeans and skater shoes on. And I'd not used a weightlifting belt in training. And
So if you've not used it all in, you're not going to start then, are you? On the actual, if you've not touched one the whole training, yeah.
Again, not being a massive self-believer, there's always a little bit of me that goes, "Oh, maybe you should." Yeah. If someone offers you one. So in the back of my head, I kind of thought, well, maybe if I can't get them off the floor and I fail on my first, 2, 3, 4 attempts, and someone offers me a belt, maybe I'll try it then. But I felt comfortable without the belt.
Yeah.
I've had a great idea for anyone in future. You could cobble together a pair of jeans and a t-shirt that are really flimsily put together, so when you lift them, they all just tear apart like the Incredible Hulk. Just as you pick the stones up, like, look at me. Yeah, that would be great. So anyone who's listening, do that.
Ben, that has been so interesting. That's great. I'm really glad we talked about the Dinnies there at the end, because that is a great. We've never talked about it. I don't think in that. The way you described the training and then the experience, the way it was really kind of visceral and descriptive. You really could feel what you were going through, which is great. Yeah, really, really good. Thank you so much, Ben. That's brilliant. I mean, if people want to follow you, want to follow either yourself or yourself, your training, that kind of thing, or want to follow the gym, what's the best way for people to do that?
Probably Instagram is going to be the best way. So at Bradbury PT on Instagram. I don't post hugely regularly, but I'm gonna start putting a little bit more up. I was sort of posting quite regularly, and then in the sort of 2 months up to the Dinnies, I thought, I don't want to post too much because I don't want people to get too invested in this. And if I don't do it, I'll look like a right mug. So again, that's that amazing self-confidence that meant I sort of went very quiet until I'd done it. Bradbury PT on Instagram, and my gym is Complete Fitness. So that's complete_fitness_deep cut. and they can follow some stuff about the gym there, and they can see some of the events that we do there, and some of the other training stuff we do.
Excellent. No, thank you so much. That's been really, really good. That's absolutely great. And then obviously when this goes out, I'll be tagging you on Instagram, and you can collaborate on the posts, and we'll send you it all
Oh,
the
brilliant.
stuff. Yes, that'll be brilliant. Pete, that was good, wasn't it? Very
It's
interesting.
great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really, really good. And having Stevie on a few weeks
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
and then speaking to Ben now is fantastic, brilliant.
I
So
knew that.
thanks.
I knew as soon as I saw it come up on Instagram and Facebook, I was like, James is going to be in touch with Ben about coming
Well,
on
no,
the
I was. It's funny because
podcast.
I messaged Ben, I think maybe a month or two back, and
Yeah.
asked him to come on the podcast, and he said, "Well, actually, I'm training for the Dinnies, and I'm going to do them in early May." And maybe wait till I've done what? Yeah, well, that showed some belief, because she said, "Wait till I've done done that."
Well, I think actually I said, even if I don't get them, it will be a good story, and maybe I can talk about something else if I don't get.
Yeah, yeah, you did actually. You did. You said either way, we can have a good conversation about it. Yes.
Yeah.
What we could have done is recorded it a week before and done a Have I Got News for You, and recorded one bit and then said, right, and then just in case, let's record another one.
Yeah. Yeah, do me. Thank you everybody for watching and listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially Apple Podcasts, and give us a subscribe on YouTube. Yeah, thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you for having me on. It's brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mr. Peter Land.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks, Ben. That was great.
And we will see you all next week on episode 303. Until then, bye-bye.